Brian Wilson is joining us. Brian, we usually do this hit brought to you by the Wellness Institute of Nashville on Wednesdays, but you are going to be gone on Wednesday. So
I can be here tomorrow. I just can't be here next Wednesday.
Oh, got it. Okay, very good.
Yeah,
All right, cool. All right. By the way, I've got some breaking news.
Okay.
This is from our friends at the Tennessee Star. The trans-identifying Covenant killer hated her father because he supported Donald Trump, according to her journal. Now, you and I both, we've been covering this for a long time, but, this is from new writings the FBI have now released to the Tennessee Star. I mean, not real surprising, but...
No, it's not, and we got a glimpse of that here on Super Talk when I was doing the afternoons. I actually got a tape recording of the police interviewing the parents, and this was about a month after the shooting took place at Covenant. And it was an interesting interview, and that you heard the police asking questions that gave you an idea of at least where the investigation was 1 month in. And one of the things that they said in that interview was that indeed the father and the shooter had a troubled relationship, and she actually fantasized about murdering him. Yeah, that's been known for a while, but now there are more documents out there that back that up.
Yeah, the newly released journal entries about her father's interest in, and this is an air quote, dumb politics and President Donald Trump. So,
right.
Again, not real surprising. Now, let's talk about Washington, D.C., shall we?
Right. We shall.
So, of course, we all know, I've been covering this. We've all been covering this. So we don't necessarily need to go through all of the details. But you lived, just like Joan, you lived and worked in Washington, D.C. for years.
31 of them.
31 years. And one of the things that we're noticing here is the media, and they're not really being honest about the crime stats in D.C. Talk about that.
Well, let's talk about first. Can I just start with a little bit of history?
Yeah.
This is mandated by the Constitution. This federal city. There were back in the day, the founding fathers. We're talking Washington, Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton. Who did a lot more than just that musical that all the kids love. You should really study Hamilton. Fascinating guy. James Madison. They all came together to pick the District of Columbia, and it was established basically in 1790, 10 square miles, or 10 miles square rather. It's 100 square miles. The city was designed by Pierre Lafont, and basically it is a federal city because it's unlike any other place in the country, and that it's not really a state. It's a federal city under federal control. That changed in 1973. That's how long it was completely under the control of Congress and the president. And in 1973, they passed this thing called the Home Rule Act. And when they did that, they gave the president a great deal of power to basically make him, if he choose to be, the governor. He could invoke police powers. Congress still has to go over, even to this day, and has to accept and approve every piece of legislation that the D.C. Council and the mayor choose. For many, many years, the mayor of D.C. was basically appointed by the president. And so it is an odd duck in that way, that it's not like a state and it's not like a city. Now, as for the crime statistics, you're right. I think that they've been lying about crime statistics for years, and now there's information that backs this up. Mayor says, oh, well, crime's been going down. There's no need to do this. This is a political stunt. I point your attention to a story that was done by Paul Wagner. Now, Joan will remember Paul, pretty respected police reporter in the D.C. area.
Yes.
Yeah, he's very good. And here's what he reported in July. The Metropolitan Police Department confirmed that a man by the name of Michael Pulliam had been placed on paid administrative leave in mid-May. This happened just a week after Pulliam filed an equal employment opportunity complaint against an assistant chief, and the police union accused the department of deliberately falsifying crime data, according to 3 law enforcement sources familiar with the complaint. The union claims police supervisors in the department manipulate crime data to make it appear that violent crime has fallen considerably compared to last year. So, they would apparently the supervisors, police supervisors would show up at a violent crime and tell the officers and the detectives, we're not going to call it this, we're going to call it that, and would downgrade the case so that it didn't appear to be the worst kind of violent crime.
Well, yeah, there's so many different ways to look at this, and you have that with the falsifying of the stats and so forth. You also have, Brian, you remember this, where, because they're going back 5 years. Oftentimes they'll go back 5 years. And there was a story about how Joe Biden and how he made the reporting of the crime stats so complicated that a lot of cities would basically opt out of reporting the crime stats.
In fact, a lot of major cities do the same thing.
Right.
The FBI crime statistics are BS. They're just not real. And so you can manipulate this data because it's a political football, and no mayor wants to be be over a city that has an increasing violent crime problem. So they find ways to sort of muck around with the numbers so that it appears that crime is going down, but in actuality, real life on the street, it is not going down. And D.C. has always been, I think, a very violent town. There's some parts of the city, and Joan will back me up on this, you can feel pretty safe walking around at night. The monumental core of the city has always been, relatively safe. But you make one wrong turn in D.C. and you're in a bad neighborhood. And it can happen quick if you don't know the lay of the land. And
Agreed.
so
Yep.
it has always been a violent area, especially over in the Anacostia area, high crime rate. And I look, I just don't put any confidence at all in a claim that violent crime is going down. Not at all.
No, and you've got the TV stations also pointing to, and I've got CNN on in here, and ABC News did the same darn thing, where they're basically trying to discredit Donald Trump going in there to fight crime because they keep saying, well, the crime rate is down from last year. It's still really dangerous, and the schools are terrible. You've got, again, the crime that is
it's horribly mismanaged. It really is.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you compare D.C. to other cities of its size, it's still higher than most, if not all, cities its size. I don't know about how it compares to Memphis. I think Memphis is probably worse off because it's the worst in the country. But the media, true to form, this is what they do. They try to do everything, report everything, the opposite of what is reality so that they can make Donald Trump look bad.
And so they're going to do that. Now, the question, I think, to watch in the days ahead is he has 30-day authority.
Right.
He can come at any time and say, we're taking over the police department for 30 days. Now, the question is, will he try to extend that? Or will he go to Congress and ask them to give him that authority? And if he does, can they get it through? Probably could get it through the House. I'm not sure they could get it through the Senate because it takes 60 votes to do anything that's really hard. But one way or the other, he has limited authority in that regard. But I got to tell you this, you just need to understand that when you talk about District of Columbia, it's an odd animal. It's a weird duck. And there is no other place in America that is like that. Where you do have, and I've always felt really honestly that they should do what they call a retrocision. And I think that what they should do is a lot of people have suggested they already gave part of the District of Columbia back to Virginia. I forget when that happened, but it was a long time ago. Alexandria was given back to Virginia and taken away from what was then the District of Columbia, so that it's no longer a perfect little square diamond.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people say, well, give most of it to Virginia and some of it to Maryland, and leave the monumental core of the city as the federal city. And I don't know if that will ever catch on, but there has been a lot of talk of that.
All right, it is 7:17. I'm going to trigger you, Brian Wilson, with a piece of audio from a guy who I'm sure is one of your favorite journalists. It is. All right, so the context is important here, Brian. This is Jake Tapper, and he is He is talking to Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Okay?
Okay.
This is what he says.
Is it not just better for voters to be picking their politicians instead of politicians to be picking their voters through gerrymandering?
So he's talking to, of course, Greg Abbott, and I'm just wondering when he said that to J.D. Pritzker.
Yeah, I don't think you'll ever find that. I don't think it really ever happened. This whole thing, and by the way, I still get triggered. I still get angry and worked up about this stuff.
Do you?
The only problem is now the only thing that hears it when I go off is my troubled French bulldog. So
well, that's probably why he's
tired
troubled.
she gets real tired of me ranting as I walk around the house. So it's good to be able to get on the radio and talk about that. But I'm telling you, this whole thing about gerrymandering. The Democrats are the masters of gerrymandering.
Yep.
If you ever lived in the state of Maryland, you became very acutely aware of this, and I did. And a lot of the blue states, have been doing it for years. And by the way, if you are going to gerrymander for racial reasons, then the Supreme Court will step in. But by and large, if you can prove that, that this is not racially motivated the way we're divvying up, these districts, the Supreme Court has largely said it's a state matters and has stayed out of it. So, this whole thing about gerrymandering is just be it. And the Democrats in Texas, as a Texan, I can say they have done this before. At one time, they went just across the border into Oklahoma and took up at a Holiday Inn just across the Texas line.
Yeah, well, now they're staying at the Hyatt owned by the
now they're
Pritzker
doing
family.
pretty good. They're staying at a better hotel in Chicago, I guess. Yeah, but so this is not an unusual thing. They go through this all the time. But I got to tell you, Greg Abbott is correct, and it doesn't look as if any gerrymandering has taken place here that would not pass muster before the High Court.
I got to ask though, Brian, and you and I watch the same stuff often. If the Democrats have a history of this, and they do, why don't they change the rules of what it takes to have a quorum in Texas so that at some point, if the Democrats flee again, they can just say, well, too bad, so sad, you gave up your representation for this particular matter, and we're going to vote with the people that we have.
I suppose they could do that. But again, what they would do if that came up is they would leave.
Yeah, but at least they could do business.
Yeah, that's right. So I wish that they would do that. It's sort of a silly thing. It's a bunch of showmanship. But when you hear these Democrats talk about how, well, what they're doing here is unprecedented, well, that is just total horse. You know what?
Oh, it absolutely is, and they've done it in. Of course, they did it in California. They've done it in Massachusetts. They don't have any representation in the House of Representatives.
I know, and in fact, I read somewhere where only about 30% of the people in Massachusetts identify as Democrats, and about 12% identify as Republicans, and the vast majority of people, the biggest clump of voters, don't identify as either in Massachusetts. Yet the Democrats control the process, no doubt about it.
All right, Brian, we're running out of time very quickly. Donald Trump is going to meet with Vladimir Putin on Friday.
Right.
We don't know if Zelensky is going to be there or not. There seems to be some issues with that.
I think the determination was that the last I read is that he would not be there.
He wants to be invited. He wants to be invited, and I don't know. I guess the question ultimately is, do you see anything being accomplished? Because if Trump and Putin come to an agreement, that doesn't necessarily mean that Zelensky is going to agree to it. But if Zelensky is there, then he is just going to obviously be problematic. Both of these sides, Russia and Ukraine, they each have their deals which or their requirements that they simply are not going to agree to. Zelensky is not going to agree to formally allow Russia to have the land that they have captured. And Zelensky is not going to agree to step down, which is what Vladimir Putin wants. And Putin also wants a certain say in what is going on in Ukraine. So both of these sides have things that the other side simply will not agree to.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a difficult negotiation. I don't know that it's time to have everybody in the same room, and Zelensky only has so much power. I mean, if he loses the support of the United States, and the European leaders are sort of nudging him, saying, come on, it's time. Let's wrap this up. I think it'll be very hard for him to to not go along with that. But because he has no other choice, if he starts to lose the support of the European allies and the United States, he does not have the ability to conduct an effective war against Russia. So, they can bring pressure to bear if they choose to do that. So far, they have chosen not to. I don't know. I thought the most fascinating thing I heard about Donald Trump yesterday was that he said that within a couple of minutes of sitting down with Vladimir Putin, he would know whether he was serious or not. Now, he must have a proposal that he's going to lay on the table, and if it gets rejected out of hand right off the bat, it sounds as if this will be a very short meeting in Alaska.
Who's got the upper hand, you think? Just read 30 seconds. Who's got the upper hand, Putin or Donald Trump?
Well, I don't know. I would say right now, at this moment, it's Donald Trump. Putin, I think is a bad actor in every level that you can possibly, every metric that you can compare him to.
Yep.
He's just a bad actor, and I think Donald Trump is going to go in there and try to, maybe that he says, this is what I do. Can he cobble together a deal that will hold? So far, it's been elusive, and this may be it. If he gets over there and he reads Putin's not ready to play, and he turns around and walks out of there in a half an hour and comes back to Washington, then I'd say he's probably going to wipe his hands of it and say, I'm done.
All right, 7:24. Brian, always great to have you on, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Okay, buddy.
And we'll have another round of topics for Brian to comment on. I know, I Elmer fudded there in the commercial. You people don't need to tell me, I know.
More like you Barry Kripke it from Big Bang Theory.
I got it. It's so funny and I've told this story before. When I was a kid, I actually literally had a speech impediment where I could not say my R's. And when I was a kid, I actually did. I was an Elmer Futter. And I had to go to speech therapy and everything.
Did kids make fun of you?
Oh, they did make fun of me like you wouldn't believe, Joan Jones. So every time that happens, a little piece inside of me dies. I'm totally kidding. Jack Johnson is Senate Majority Leader here in the state of Tennessee. And Jack, always great to have you on the program. And a couple of things that I want to talk to you about. I love living in Tennessee. One of the great things about Tennessee is our great leadership. And you folks in the state legislature, very conservative on a lot of the things that you bring to the table. Let's talk about this. I thought this was fascinating yesterday, where the state of Tennessee is now looking to expand the list of criminal offenses not eligible for bail. And so let's talk about that first off, because I read through this, and this does make all the sense in the world. But talk about number one, and then we'll get into specifics. Why is the state legislature doing this?
Hey, good morning, Dan. Always good to be with you. Thank you for the kind words. Yeah, we have a problem in Tennessee, and a lot of folks might not be aware of it. Our Constitution, our state Constitution, which was the one we're under right now, was adopted in 1870. It includes language that says the only crime for which you can be denied bail. Okay, so if you're a violent criminal out there and you commit a crime, you go before the court, and the court's going to decide how much bail you have to put up in order to get out of jail while you're awaiting trial. The only time they can deny bail is if you're charged with capital murder, first-degree murder. So if you've got someone who's charged with multiple counts of rape or child rape or kidnapping or assault, a judge in Tennessee is forced to give that person bail no matter how violent, how much of a threat they believe that they are to society. So House Speaker Cameron Sexton and I proposed a constitutional amendment that will be before the voters in November of next year for ratification, and we hope the voters will ratify it, to say no, judges can deny bail for other violent people who are charged with violent crimes. They don't have to deny bail, but the judges will have that option when they deem that person to be a threat to society.
So I guess the question is, number one, what is your opinion on these judges actually doing this? Because it seems to me like all the things that you just mentioned, they are horrific crimes. And have you, I don't know how these things work. Have you had any input from, judges across the state of Tennessee as to how they would react to such a thing?
Not only judges, Dan, but also the district attorneys conference. And they are overwhelmingly supportive of this constitutional amendment. Because we can cite case after case when we were presenting this through the committee system and through the legislature, because the way we amend our Constitution, the legislature passes a resolution, has to pass through two different general assemblies, including one by at least a two-thirds vote before it can go before the voters for ratification. We had people testify and give specific examples of where someone who had a lengthy criminal history of violent crimes, and then they're charged with maybe it's just second-degree murder, or maybe it's assault or aggravated assault, and the judge felt like that this person shouldn't be out on the streets, but they had to give them bail. Now, they can set the bail very high. They can give people a very high bail, but some people will have the ability to satisfy that and get back out on the streets.
So Heidi Campbell, I'm just reading this article. Heidi Campbell says, a Democrat, it is an extreme and alarming move on our part away from freedom, she says. It's going to create a lot of injustice, she says. How have the Democrats been reacting to all of this? I mean, clearly, that's what Heidi Campbell's reaction is.
Well, first of all, and forgive me, I don't remember the number of states. I think it's over half of the states in the country, judges are allowed to deny bail for other types of violent crimes. So if it's so extreme, we have a number of other states that currently have this. Mm-hmm. Tennessee is a bit unique with this prohibition, but it's not uncommon. Those on the left siding with violent criminals over the citizens of Tennessee and keeping our communities safe.
Any cost associated with this? Is this you're going to have people, who should, and frankly, be in jail and not eligible for bail? Is there a worry about the costs associated with this?
So the fiscal note was not significant. We attach a fiscal implication to anything we do in the state of Tennessee, and it was not significant. We've had conversations with our sheriffs who run our jails all across the state, and we'll be monitoring that. The good news is, Dan, is that we don't have a tremendous number of these types of violent crimes being committed. They do happen. We know we've got a crime problem in Memphis down there. That's a different story that I'm glad that you guys have talked a lot about. But luckily, there aren't that many instances where this will probably apply. But when it does, when you have that individual who's charged with a serious violent crime and has a violent criminal history, we need to untie the hands of our judges and allow them to make a decision when appropriate to deny bail. And I want to be very clear, all of the appeals processes are still in place. If a judge is denying bail to people and they shouldn't be, they can appeal to the Court of Criminal Appeals. We're protecting due process here. This isn't going to lead to just rampant people being locked up because they're charged with a crime. But when the judge makes a determination that individual is a threat to the community, they need to be able to hold them while they await trial in order to keep our community safe.
Well, and we always hear and recently here with this murder of 4 people, I think that was a week or two ago now. And so you always hear about these folks that they get out of jail, they're on parole, bail, whatever it is, and they do these heinous things. And so I personally think that this is a great idea. All right, so let me ask you about this lawsuit that is going on there in Williamson County. And apparently what happened is there is a biological boy who identifies as a girl, was actually allowed to participate in a girls-only sex education class for 7th graders. I mean, how does this happen?
Well, Dan, we've talked extensively, and I know you've talked with other members of the General Assembly about this. Tennessee has been one of the leading states in the nation in terms of getting this woke garbage out of our schools. We several years ago, we banned biological boys playing in girls' sports, whether it's at the K-12 level or at the collegiate level. We banned allowing biological boys to use girls' locker rooms or bathrooms. We've done that in Tennessee. As you know, I led the effort to protect children from transgender surgeries, and that went all the way to the United States Supreme Court, and we won. Tennessee has been a leader in trying to drive common sense. This is a situation where I think the school did not adhere to the spirit and the letter of the legislation that we passed, and that is we recognize two genders in the state of Tennessee, male and female, and we're not going to compromise the integrity or the values of many other girls who wanted to attend or their parents wanted them to attend this particular very sensitive education relative to family life and have a biological boy sitting there. So I have not spoken with anyone at the Williams County school system, and I certainly want to hear their side of what transpired there. But we can't allow this to happen, and I think it is a violation of laws that we've passed. And if it's not, then we will fix that when we go back into session.
And I guess the question is, so if the school is put in this position, could they have and be protected? Could they have said, I'm sorry, but this boy cannot be in the room with girls during the sex education classes? And would the school have been protected from a lawsuit that no doubt would have come from the family of the boy?
Well, not only do I think they would be protected, Dan, and to be clear, I'm not a lawyer, but not only do I think they would be protected, I think that they were legally bound to prevent that biological boy from being in that class with biological girls, talking about things that are very sensitive in terms of sex education, family life, and that type of thing. So, yes, I think they would have been protected, and I think that they were legally bound to. Now, the courts can decide that, but I can promise you this. When we reconvene our legislative session in January, we'll take a look at this, and if we need to tighten up the statute relative to this specific type of instance, we will certainly do so.
All right, very good. And we've got about a minute left. Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson joining us. What can we look forward to in January when the state legislature reconvenes? Anything? What's on the top of your priority list?
Well, as you know, we're very excited about a lot of the things going on in Washington with President Trump. The DOJ, reforming Medicaid, reforming SNAP benefits. You guys have been covering, and other media outlets have as well, that Governor Lee has applied for a waiver to make sure that we're not using SNAP benefits to buy sugary drinks and candy and things of that nature. So I think we're going to be very, very eager to get back into session and make sure that we're fully compliant and cooperating with the Trump administration and all the reforms that they're pursuing at the federal level, because I'm excited about them. And again, I want Tennessee to be a leader in supporting President Trump and making our country and our state great again.
All right. As always, Jack Johnson, thank you for joining us here on Nashville's Morning News. Have a great rest of week and appreciate it. And I will mention that we talked about it in the 5 o'clock hour. State Representative Gino Bolso, who's also running for Congress, is representing the plaintiffs in that case. And Joan, you said he's doing it pro bono.
Yes.
So that's very cool of Gino Bolso. I've not yet. I feel like there's some folks that are running for Congress that I have not been able to get into the radio program. Gino Bolso is one of them. I think I have him scheduled. I've got to go back and look at my notes, but I'll definitely ask him about this.
That would be a great question to ask him.
Yeah, because I love the fact that he is doing this pro bono. And for the complainants, 13 girls refusing to participate in class on the second day. And the school just thought that it was okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I should have asked Jack Johnson, but so what happens with the school administrator? Like, is somebody should hold that school administrator accountable because they knew that they were violating state law?
Don't, Adrian, battle this person.
Don't get me started on Adrian Battle.
I know.
Don't get me started on her. I tweeted about her this morning.
You did?
I sure did. That'll show her.
Is there something in the news that I should know about?
No, she's just corrupt.
Okay.
That's all I got. She's just corrupt.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
All right. It is coming up on 7:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The Super Text line is 615-737-9986. I got to tell you, man, the Super Text line, I love all you people. They are brutal.
They're brutal, and
they are brutal because I Elmer Fudded my commercial for Brentwood Jewelry.
Yeah,
I did that on purpose for Brentwood Jewelry. I totally Elmer Fudded it. So actually, in the 8 o'clock hour, I'm gonna give Brentwood Jewelry a make good.
Ah, that's nice.
Yeah, well, it's what I do, because I like those folks over there at Brentwood Jewelry, and I don't know what happened. It's like I've got to KGB used to say I had a danurism.
Danurism.
And I started Elmer Fudding in the middle of that commercial. Totally threw me off.
Yeah. It flew off the super textures, too.
I know. Now
Franklin Woad?
Franklin Woad?
Somebody said, I think a little piece of you dies.
Whatever.
It was good, though. You know what? It draws attention to
my speech impediment. As a radio broadcaster, it draws attention to my speech impediment that I've had for 50. Well, I'm 57. So
we're not supposed to laugh at you. I know, but
it's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool, man. I know you're laughing with me, not at me.
That's right.
That's what I keep telling myself.
Yeah.